Tonight, new fallout aimed at Kim Davis. She is the county clerk in Kentucky locked up last week after refusing to issue marriage licenses to same-sex Huckabee. Within hours of that release, the critics started to hit Huckabee, Kim Davis, and those who support her.
I'm just sort of offended by the fact that she's being called the Rosa Parks of the religious freedom movement, because what she is doing or was doing was discriminating against other people.
You can't discount that there was some political grandstanding perhaps going on.
I think it's kind of a George Wallace moment.
Mike Huckabee won the political points at this event. Some people are better exploiting these moments than others.
So all of those people holding crosses and saying she's a super Christian, no, she's not.
She got pregnant with twins out of wedlock.
Did they stone her?
No. Here's Leviticus 20:10. Both the man and the woman must die.
Like Mike Huckabee says, sign me up. I'll do it. I'll go kill her. And whatever toothless redneck. By the way, who's the creepy giant farmer behind them? Why does it, like, what does that do?
Joining me now, two of the 2016 candidates for president, Carly Fiorina and Governor Mike Huckabee, who we turn to first. Governor, good to see you tonight. And your reaction to the great laughs at the creepy big farmer, her husband. And yesterday we saw somebody on The View call Kim Davis a monster.
It's really unfortunate. This is an humble, gracious lady, and her husband is a great guy. The people of Kentucky that I met with yesterday, they're the salt of the earth. And I'd much rather be around them than I had these elitist snobs who look down their nose at everyone who isn't like them. And thank God that Kim and her husband aren't like those people with such judgmental, hateful attitudes toward people they don't know and don't understand. But this is the world we're living in. If a person has the convictions of Kim Davis, Christian convictions, biblical convictions, they're considered to be ignorant, backwoods. Well, I'm more happy to stand with Kim and her husband than I am any of those snobs who look down their nose at them or at me. Let it be.
How about Carly Fiorina's coming up after you, and she has said, look, it's the law of the land, and the clerk, Kim Davis, if she needs to not be the clerk if she can't issue these licenses. It's a different situation when it is your very job to do the thing that your religious objection stands in the way of.
Well, I disagree that it's the law of the land because the court said it, because, Megan, you and I have had this conversation before. We may disagree with it. But the courts can't make a law. They just can't do that. The Constitution is expressly clear that Congress makes law.
Since Marbury versus Madison.
They have to review. That's what Marbury versus Madison did. But Jefferson said we turn the Constitution into a thing of wax if we live under judicial tyranny, which is what we have when we believe that the people's representatives are cut out of the process. And the court reached out into thin air to come up with this. But, Megan, here's something else let's keep in mind. Kim Davis was applying the law of Kentucky. When she was elected, I keep hearing people say she ought to step down. When she was elected, 75% of the people of Kentucky had voted for traditional marriage. So that was what she was elected under. She asked for an accommodation. We give terrorists at Gitmo accommodation for their Muslim faith.
I'm going to ask her about that because I realize we talked about that on the show last night. Let me ask you this. She's going to go back to work on Monday. I know you've been talking to her. Do you believe that she will stand in the way of her deputies issuing the licenses to same-sex couples?
I think she will be true to her conscience, and she will look for some way to not have to put her name on that marriage license. She's been very clear she's not going to do that. She can't do that. It would violate what she believes is her, not only her oath to God, but also her oath to take office, because that was not the agreement that she had when she took office.
We'll continue to follow it. Governor, always great to speak with you.
Thank you, Megan.
Well, many of the Republican presidential hopefuls have publicly come to Davis's defense in the wake of her arrest. Others have faulted her for not carrying out her duties as county clerk. Among those, Republican presidential candidate Carly Fiorina, who joins me now. Great to see you, Carly. So you heard the argument on the other side, and the argument that I raised even here last night is that the law does, under Title VII, require an accommodation, typically, of even a public employee who's refusing to do her job for religious reasons.
And she should have been provided an accommodation. Absolutely right. She should have been provided an accommodation. She never should have been thrown in jail. I mean, for heaven's sakes, Lois Lerner should have been thrown in jail, not Kim Davis. And it's clear that religious freedom is under assault in this country, which is why we have to put so much energy around protecting religious freedom. Nevertheless, I think she crosses a line when she prevents others in the court from issuing these licenses, but she clearly should have received an accommodation, and let's hope that's what happens.
Do you object to her saying, look, you can't even do it if my name is on the certificate, because that's what got her thrown in jail?
Well, I do think it's a very fine line here. I mean, I understand Governor Huckabee's point that she was elected under a Kentucky law that was voted in, and I understand how objectionable people find the Supreme Court ruling. I do as well. They clearly reached into thin air for this justification of what they wanted the law to be, not what the law is. On the other hand, as conservatives, we believe that it is someone's duty to uphold the law as it is, not as we would like it to be. We ask judges to do that, we ask police officers to do that, and I think we ask clerks to do that. And so I understand this is a difficult issue. I think she should be given an accommodation, but I do not think she can stand in the way of all marriage licenses being issued by this office.